Wow, whoever said that fishing was easy? It can be quite a workout, especially on a small boat like this. You need the balance of an acrobat to stay upright, and you need Tiger Woods short game to put your lure exactly where you want it. You see, often fishermen forget that they're boaters too, and more often than not, they're even more at risk. You see, a fisherman will go out on the water when many other boaters, because of weather, will stay at the dock. A fisherman will tend to stand when other boaters are sitting, and to land a fish, they'll lean way out over the side of the boat. One misstep or one little wave, they could end up in the water. I'm going to head back in and meet our expert fisherman, Roland Martin. He's not only a world-class fisherman, but he's also an excellent boater, too.
On the screen and off, Roland Martin is one of the most recognizable fishermen today. His TV career spans nearly 4 decades, and he's one of the most legendary figures in the professional bass fishing arena. Roland holds the records for the most tournaments won and currently holds 9 Bass Angler of the Year titles.
Hey, Roland, how are you?
Hey, great to see you again, Ted.
Hey, thanks very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today about fishing.
No problem. You know, I really enjoy introducing people to the great sport of fishing, and along the way, giving them some rock-solid tips on safety.
It seems to me to be successful in tournaments, you've got to be not only a skilled fisherman, but also an experienced boater.
That's true. Now, this boat is another great tool I use in my tournament fishing, along with my tackle and my many years of experience. But operating a boat safely, hey, that also requires knowledge and skill.
You know, when I was out on the boat on my own, I noticed what a fine sense of balance that you need to fish. And I guess that's because fishermen need to stand in order to achieve that casting accuracy.
Now, that's true. I stand in this boat because this is my bass boat. It's a little real wide, a great stable platform for fishing and standing. But when I use my smaller aluminum boat, I have to be a lot more careful.
But there are some similarities between both of them, aren't there?
Absolutely. Particularly when it comes to the type of safety gear that's required when you're on the water.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that safety gear.
Yes, it all begins with a good life vest. Now, you must have one for every person in the boat in the correct size. And I recommend that you wear it anytime that you're on the water.
Now, Roland, there's some people out there that are probably saying, what's the matter? Can't you swim?
Well, of course I can swim, and that's why most people say they don't need to wear a life vest. They also say they're uncomfortable. Now, have you ever been floundering around in the water trying to put on a life vest?
Yeah, I bet it can be tough. Now, I got a question to ask you. Do you prefer the inflatable jackets or the inherently buoyant ones?
Well, in the warm weather like here in South Florida, I'll wear these lightweight, cool vests. However, if I'm fishing up north, I'll try this full vest model that offers thermal protection. The inflatable vest, it is comfortable but requires a bit more care and maintenance than the inherently buoyant one. You should perform a semi-annual inspection to test its operation, which includes leaving it inflated overnight to check that there are no small leaks. But inspecting your regular life jacket to make sure it's still in good condition is a good idea too. You want it to work when you need it. There's also the fanny pack style inflatable that's very small and easy to wear. You inflate it first and then pull it over your head. The inherently buoyant life jacket is good for earlier or later in the season. It provides some thermal protection against cold air or cold water if you fall in it. I'd like to tell all you anglers out there, whether you're from the north or the south, choose whichever life vest is right for your conditions and wear it.
You know, just having your life jacket aboard might mean you meet the legal requirements, but it might not be enough to have it packed away in your storage locker in the event of an emergency. And to test that theory, what we did is conducted a little experiment with some anglers.
We tested how fast they could find and get their life jackets on, and the results were interesting. It really reinforced the point that it takes time to get into your jacket, oftentimes you don't have.
Failed. We all sank. It seems like our zipper was corroded down in our hatch, so we couldn't get open and get our life jackets out.
So what does that mean?
It means we probably would perish in an actual emergency.
And most people end up in the water without any warning, so the best policy is to wear your life jacket when you're on the water. You'll not only be legal, but wearing it means you'll be back for another try for the one that got away.
Roland, you said it was difficult to put your life jacket on in the water, and you know what? You were right. And to prove the point, we conducted another little experiment with a group of anglers in a swimming pool.
2, 3.
We tossed their life jackets into the pool and told them to jump in and put them on. The results were very interesting. They just couldn't do it without a struggle.
It was very difficult maneuvering it around and trying to get my arms through and zip it up because it kept flopping backwards as I was rolling around.
It was twisted and I couldn't untwist it, and I just abandoned that one and picked this one.
It was tough. I grabbed one, it didn't fit. I had a hard time with that, and then I grabbed this one.
In good conditions, it was difficult. At night, it would have been extremely difficult.
The point was made, and they got it loud and clear. Wear your life jacket.
Wear your life jacket. It saves lives.
Wear your life jacket at all times.
And always wear it, because it's really hard to put it on once you're in the water.
Well, our life jackets are on, the gear is aboard, and the fish are waiting. Where are we going?
I got a great spot, Ted, right up this backwater full of nice big fish, perfect for this 16-foot boat. You know, choosing the right boat's so important to match the water conditions for your boat. And I would not take this 16-foot boat in the middle of the ocean or in the middle of the big lake. It does not have enough freeboard, and it has not enough deep V. But for this situation, it's perfect. I'm gassed up, I have equipment aboard, ready to go.
Well, before we head out, let's take a look at some of the safety gear.
Well, you know, right here in this equipment box, we have all the required safety equipment and more. In a 16-foot boat, you need to carry visual distress signals if you are boating in coastal waters or the Great Lakes. If your boat is less than 16 foot and you're boating in coastal waters or the Great Lakes, you need only night visual distress signals when operating from sunset to sunrise. Even if you're boating on inland waters, carry them anyway. They are just as effective on a small lake or river as the Gulf of Mexico. If this boat had an enclosed fuel tank, I would need a U.S. Coast Guard approved Marine Type B1 fire extinguisher. You also need one if the boat has an inboard engine or if there is closed storage that contains flammable materials. If the engine was located in a closed compartment, like an inboard or an inboard-outboard, it must be equipped with a blower for ventilation. You also require a sound signaling device like an air horn. Keep a whistle on each of your life jackets. If you need help, you'll be heard clearer than if you were yelling. Also have a throwable device such as a cushion or a ring. If you're boating between sunset and sunrise, you're going to need navigation lights that meet the regulations. Although you don't need them during the day, many fishermen tend to head out before the sun comes up and don't get back until late. So these are legally required. Besides, they expand your fishing time. You need some paperwork, a fishing license, vessel registration for the boat, along with proof of insurance. Keep them all together in a watertight sleeve. Also, the registration numbers for the boat need to be permanently attached to each side of the forward half of the boat in plain vertical block style, not less than 3 inches high, and a color contrasting to the color of the hull. Although it's not a requirement, I like to carry an anchor with plenty of line in the event that I have a breakdown and need to wait for help. Breakdowns seldom occur, but an anchor in a small recreational fishing boat like this can also be used to hold the boat in place while you fish. A paddle and a bailing pump are also a good idea. And I also always carry a waterproof VHF marine radio. It's useful to call for help or to get weather reports. Now, my kit bag also includes a first aid kit, some high-energy snacks, water, and sunscreen. All the items to keep you going strong when you're out for a day on the water. Okay, Judy. I always let someone responsible know where I'm going and when I'm going to get back, and include a brief description of my boat. Boaters call it a float plan, but whatever you call it, it is important in case someone has to come looking for you. And equally important is to let that responsible person know when I've returned safely, because if they don't hear from me before our agreed time, they have the duty to call out the authorities.
So, Roland, I'm really surprised here in this little canal. We're getting a couple of strikes, and I see the little technique that you're using. Tell me about what you're doing with that little weed cover.
Well, what I'm doing, I'm capitalizing on the fact that bass have no eyelids and they can't close their eyes, so they're going to seek horizontal shade and cover by those weeds. Those weeds are actually hollow underneath. There's space for those bass to hide in and shade their eyes. So I'm taking this little Cinco, which is rigged weedless, and I'm throwing it on top of the grass mat, right on top of it. And I get it right on top of the grass mat. See, it's in there about 2 or 3 feet, and I'm jiggling it, wiggling it right to the edge, right to the edge, right to there, and I drop it. Now, hopefully he'll swim out and grab it. Let's see if he's there. I don't know. No, he wasn't there that time. But You know, that's the pattern.
Now I can see we're standing. To get those kind of casts is really an advantage. I mean, we've certainly got the ideal conditions for that here.
Well, it's calm here, and that's why I'm standing. But in a small boat like this, you have to be careful, and that's why I wear a life vest, particularly because I'm standing up. Now, if it were at all rough, or if I'm probably by myself, it's a good idea to sit down. Just don't even stand up at all.
What if you got to move around the boat?
Well, if I move around the boat, I try to stay the center. I just don't get to the side. If you get to the side, it gets a little tippy. Get to this side, it gets a little tippy. But if you stay in the center of the boat, it's pretty good. You should also know the manufacturer's recommended maximum weight for your boat. This can be found on the capacity plate. When the wind and waves are up, the best bet is to stay below that stated weight. So since fishermen are boaters, they also have to know how to boat safely and to follow the rules every time they go fishing. It's not difficult, but it does require some knowledge. You have to be aware of the simple things like adhering to the speed limits in congested areas and when you're close to shore. That boating knowledge will also help you to understand what the aids to navigation mean. There are a lot of different types of markers and aids to navigation, and whether they're floating or placed permanently on the land or on the water, they provide important information to help you navigate safely. You also need to know the rules of the road to help you keep you separated from the other boats out on the water. The first rule is which boat should yield the right-of-way to the other. In the pecking order out on the water, a boat with a motor is at the bottom of the list. With an engine, you are more maneuverable than with canoes or sailboats, so it's your responsibility to keep clear of them. There are rules that apply for almost every situation, but even if you know the rules, give the others a wide berth. They might not know the rules or know what they're doing.
You know, Roland, a popular misconception that a lot of anglers, and frankly a lot of boaters have got, is that drinking is part of the pastime.
Well, I think most anglers know it's highly illegal to operate a boat while impaired, but you know, they have this attitude, well, it won't happen to me. They just think that they're not going to get caught.
You know, that's a pretty popular attitude, and one that we changed with a group of anglers that we put through this drinking and boating test. What we did is we took the group, and under controlled conditions, we allowed them to drink and boat. And frankly, the results were pretty surprising, especially to them.
Statistics show that over 40% of boating incidents involve alcohol. To demonstrate the effects that alcohol has on a person's ability to operate a vessel, a test was conducted with a group of boaters. The basis of the test was to navigate through a course designed to challenge the participants' handling and task management skills. Before getting underway, each were given a word to spell using the lettered gates on the course, and along the way, a number of distractions were set up to challenge them further. A baseline of the boaters' abilities was first established where each maneuvered through the course alcohol-free. Then, after a few drinks and a waiting period, their blood alcohol level was monitored and they ran the course again. Aboard the boat was a Marine police officer for safety and to observe the changes in the boaters' behavior and their ability on the course.
Definitely harder than it was, without the alcohol. When you're in reverse in a boat like that, you've got the, thinking backwards and then you throw the alcohol into there and it's definitely a lot different. It's consuming alcohol, and no matter what you do, it slows your reactions and slows things down a little bit. It's a depressant, and that's what it does, and it does a good job of it. It's the overconfidence is mixed with the alcohol, creates a bad situation.
Yeah, a little bit faster because I've been drinking.
I think she's a good example of where the physical impairment really isn't there, but the more the mental and the psychological effect, where she's got more of that liquid courage.
I swerved around it. I don't know if I hit it or not.
I mean, she saw the head pop up and she said, oh, and just kind of motored past it. I think she believes she swerved around it.
The alcohol is really causing them to relax quite a bit. So even though they're alert and they're trying hard, their fine motor skills just aren't quite there anymore.
Well, I think the alcohol makes a difference. Yeah, I can feel it.
He did not let off on the throttle once. He didn't slow down when he saw the head. He didn't slow down when the baby went overboard. He just said, oh, there's the baby. He kept solid on the throttle throughout the entire course. They won't go to neutral, or they actually won't stop. They'll think they can power their way through it, and then they'll hit something.
I thought I'd done well, in my own opinion.
What Vern demonstrated was that the multitasking was quite a bit of a challenge for him. This is my second ride with Vern, first time alcohol-free, now with alcohol. Before we even left the dock, he'd said the word 3 times, or, O-A-R, O-A-R, O-A-R. He was really trying to concentrate on what he had to spell. So right off the bat, that told me that he's already trying to task himself and he's having a hard time with it. Once we got started, he was focused right away on where the baby was, where the infant was, when it was going to go overboard. So he's trying really hard to keep up with what's going to happen. Once the baby went overboard, the multitasking went out the window for him because he had completed the O and the R, but he needed the A. But he was confident. I said, "Did you spell your word?" "Oh yes, O-R." There's a lot of hazards on the water. You've got to pay attention to your vessel, how you operate it, what you have to navigate around, whether it's a shoal, a marker, into a channel. You've got to pay attention to persons on board, and you have to watch out for other vessels.
Your perception, your brain, nothing is working and nothing's really quick. You're not quick on the draw like you normally are when you're sober.
I definitely think even a little bit of alcohol makes a difference in the way you operate.
Sure changed my opinion a lot. It sure opened my eyes a lot. You think you've had full control, which is totally, you don't.
You know, Ted, a lot of anglers think by just having a couple drinks out here on the water, that's not going to hurt anything. But what they don't realize is that hot sun's beating down and the rocking motion of the boat, all that goes to maximize the effects of alcohol.
Yep. And add to that, you know, the cost of severe fines and also the legal implications of being impaired on the water?
Well, the legal issue aside, the guy's out there impaired, not wearing a life vest, falls in the water, floundering around on the verge of drowning. Now that's a huge problem.
And if he falls into cold water, it's an even bigger problem because his time to self-rescue is severely limited.
We conducted an experiment that involved cold water immersion. 8 tough volunteers were put in 46-degree water, and it only took a short time for them to get into trouble. No matter how strong they were, incapacitation soon took its toll.
You know, Ted, out here on the water, you're your own backup. You know, to reduce the risk, you know, wear a good life vest. And just to keep from falling out of the boat being impaired, just don't drink.
Yeah, good point. And you know, I want to ask you this question about fishing. Now, I know that fishermen really depend on GPS and on fish finders, but what did you do before they were invented?
Well, gosh, I used to talk to the local experts, the boat dock operators and the guides, and then I'd try to get a marine navigational chart. That'll show you a lot about the features of the water. Not only does a chart tell me about the things I need to know to keep my boat safe from hazards, it also can help predict where the fish will be. It can show you the bottom conditions, water depths, indicate structure, and the irregular features that fish tend to hang around. Also, navigation markers provide some good visual information as well. If it is green, it means that in this case the deepest water is to the left of it. That indicates a safe place to run your boat. But on the other side, it is marking some underwater structure, which can be confirmed on the chart. That marker is a very important piece of safety information. If we tie up to it or obstruct it in any way, we might be responsible for someone hitting something and damaging their boat.
Hey, Roland, it looks like we're in for some weather, and I guess that's something that all anglers keep an eye on.
Well, any good fisherman is really going to watch the weather. You know, fish themselves, they either bite or don't bite according to the weather. Now, how would you like to be out on a little boat like this in a really big storm like that one? Boy, that would ruin your day. Now, one thing I do to guard against that is I have a weather radio like this VHF model, and I'll get the constant updated forecast. But more importantly, I'll just watch the weather.
You know, Roland, I'm beginning to understand what the attraction in fishing is. I thought it would be all about the excitement of catching, but you know, this is a great way to enjoy some relaxing time out here on the water.
Well, you know, Ted, there's an old saying that says it's hard to fish and worry at the same time. You know, I personally believe that if you keep in mind that you're a boater and act like one before you pick up that rod and reel, then you can concentrate on what's really important. And that's fishing and enjoying your day on the water.
To really enhance your time on the water, take a boating course and become a competent boater. There are many great organizations like the United States Power Squadrons that can help.